All right. Well, we want to welcome back Reverend Dr. Jane Simmons. Her talk today is titled Thanks Living. So we want to welcome her back. Just a little bit about her bio is, of course, you can see Dr. Simmons holds a doctorate degree in theology from Hollows University Graduate Seminary and is an ordained Unity minister. She was the 2020 recipient of Unity's Light of God Expressing Award. Way to go. Jane's the author of the book, You Can't Sleep Through Your Awakening, and she's also the co-author of the best-selling book and card decks, Who Have You Come Here to Be? And 101 Possibilities for Contemplation. So we look forward to her talk today, and Reverend Jane, we certainly welcome you this morning, and we're certainly glad that you're here, and the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much. I have to tell you, it's a delight to be with you again. It's been a while since I've connected with you, but I always enjoy being with this community and reconnecting with the Kansas City area vibe. You know, I lived in Lee Summit for 7 years, and of course went to ministerial school back then. You went in person for a couple of years, so that area is like my backyard or my second home, I guess. And so it's always lovely to connect like this, especially as we're entering the holiday season. I know it's still a little early, but I'm one of those people that I just dive right in. I've already got my Christmas decorations up and all the rest, but this season of Thanksgiving is, it just beckons the heart to open, and or should I say thanks living, as you've heard my talk title is. Thanks living means to be consciously thankful, to really make that our way of being, to be in this place of thankfulness, to make it our typical state. And when we do, amazing things can happen. We can transform not only our own personal lives, but we start to help the world to change, the world to become a kinder, more compassionate place. And so that's my big thing, is to look at how can I be a presence of love, gratitude, compassion, and in so doing, share that with the world. So how do we do that? How do we make our lives be saturated in gratitude? Well, have you ever had a dream where, it was like a nightmare? You're having a nightmare, or you're dreaming that you're doing something you're going to get in trouble about, right? You're up to no good in this dream in some way. How did you feel when you woke up? When you woke up and you said, it was just a dream. Have you ever had that experience? It was only a dream. Oh, thank goodness. I'm so glad it was just a dream. And think about the relief that you might have felt. That, yes, thank you. It's only a dream. Maybe a very intriguing dream to analyze, perhaps. Perhaps that's the case, but nonetheless, a dream. And so that level of immense thankfulness that we can feel, of that, such a relief. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that magnitude of gratitude and making that our natural state when we wake up. Another day on the planet. What a joy. And so during the month of November, a time typically that is linked to giving thanks, we have this opportunity to deliberately do this, to create our spiritual practice of going into this immense gratitude and making it our way of being, and to see what happens, to see what changes in our personal life, to see what changes in our family, our community. Imagine all of us taking this on as a spiritual practice. And what that means is that we go on a rampage of appreciation. I love this term, a rampage of appreciation. This is a term that was coined by the law of attraction teacher, Esther Hicks. I've also seen Dr. Wayne Dyer. I don't know who came up with it first, but I love the whole idea of going on a rampage of appreciation. And although the word rampage, the typical definitions for it really kind of point to violent action, there's another way of looking at it, that it's just this kind of uncontrolled, riotous distribution of gratitude. And from that, it creates a revolution of sorts. I like to think of it as an evolution revolution. And that appeals to me, you see. This is the image I have of a rampage of appreciation, showering this kind of uncontrolled, randomly bestowed gratitude. And imagine the kind of uprising that can come from that, that kind of way of connecting with the world. So gratitude can not only open our hearts. Here's the thing that we want to really get. It can also help us to settle into a deeper knowing of our true nature. It can help us to get there, to experience the wholeness that we truly are. And it becomes a portal through which we become aware of our connection with the divine presence. William James wrote this: we inhabit an invisible spiritual environment from which help comes, and our souls are mysteriously one with a larger soul, whose instruments we are. And that's just kind of a convoluted way of saying, guess what? Right now, we're swimming in a sea of oneness, all of us. We're eternally connected to the source of divine love. And if we're not experiencing our life in that way, then we are being the gatekeepers to keeping that experience out. And that happens from a closing of the heart, So gratitude is the key for becoming aware of the truth of our being in a much deeper way. Michael Brown, who's the author, see, there we are, we're swimming in a sea of oneness. So really get a feel for that. We're immersed in this sea of divine love. And when we really get that that is our whole atmosphere that we're saturated in, you can sort of sense this greater self that we are a part of. So Michael Brown, who's the author of The Presence Process, a book I highly recommend, he describes gratitude in a really beautiful way that I have found really appeals to me. He calls it the fragrance of the present moment. The fragrance of the present moment. And to me, that's one of the most succinct and telling descriptions of what gratitude is. Because here's why. When we become truly present to the moment, aware of this presence we're immersed in, aware of this sea of love that we are part of, gratitude is a natural, it just emanates from us. It's the fragrance of that moment. And it becomes this beautiful expression of heart energy. And so that fragrance of the present moment is a natural occurrence when we become very present. But it works the other way too. As we activate gratitude, as we generate gratitude, that can actually bring us to an experience of presence. So we have an experience of presence, it brings forth gratitude, we activate gratitude, it's the portal through which we can actually experience oneness. So there's a reciprocal feel to it. And so we have within us the opportunity to use this as a portal to help us glimpse the true reality that is happening right now, right here, to every single one of us. We're all part of this beautiful energy of oneness. And don't you think the world sorely needs us to do this work? I don't know about you, but when I look around, I can see that there's such a need for gratitude. There's such a need for compassion, for kind hearts. This is, I think, our work as spiritual beings, having a human experience. I read something written by one of my favorite authors, Brene Brown, and she talked about a time in her life when she was totally miserable. She said everything was going wrong. She hated the news and, in fact, was filled with disdain towards anybody that was in the news. She was always angry. She was stressed out. And even though she wrote this a while back, I was struck by how much I could relate to it right now, see? And how many of us have been struggling with this very same thing. with feeling this way, because I know I have. But there's good news to her story, because in the midst of yet another day of misery, Dr. Brown found her way out. And here's how. She rediscovered a book that had been a very strong influence earlier in her life. And the book was about the power of love. She doesn't share what the title was, but she reread all the highlighted parts. And I know that way of being. I often will do that. I'll look through the highlights again. And suffice it to say that by doing that, she saw how much she was making her own life miserable. And she was doing that because she was stuck in judgment and anger. And she realized she was suffering from lovelessness. And she saw how self-destructive that was. Now, I can really understand and relate to her predicament. Here's why. Often my desire to stay informed, it just messes with my sanity. It erodes my sanity to stay on top of all that's happening in the world. And when we find ourselves regularly inhabiting this kind of stressed out, anxious, frustrated, irritated state, it just robs us of our zest for life, our vitality, our power, in fact. And she was able to completely turn that around by being reminded of the power of the heart and to start practicing. And this doesn't mean that we don't say no to harmful behaviors, or that we don't stand up for human rights. Absolutely, we do so, but it's with a sense of compassion rather than contempt. Can you feel the difference in that? That when I find a state of gratitude within me, I can bring it into it primes the pump for compassion, so that I can see it in a different way and still take those steps to say no to harmful behavior, but doing it without the added residue of contempt. When we do that, we reclaim our power as spiritual beings. And I have to tell you, gratitude is what gets us there, especially if we can't seem to find any compassion in the moment. Have you ever been there where I just can't get there? Gratitude can start to open that door as we think about someone or something that we're grateful for, and we let it kind of warm the heart and grow and expand. And suddenly, once our heart starts to open, we can get to compassion, and it lifts us up. Gratitude, an attitude of gratitude gives us latitude. I just had to include that. And that latitude is unavailable to us when we're stuck in judgment and anger. We just can't see our way clear. New Thought teacher Emmett Fox said this: as long as you recognize the reality of anything but God under any pretense, you're harboring fear, and you will punish yourself inevitably. And to me, that means that when I'm believing something is against me, right, forgetting that there's only one presence, one power, I'm the one who suffers, because I keep myself out of that oneness experience when I'm making someone or something the matter with me. And in truth, everything that appears to be against us, it's really a call to a greater expression of who we are. It's calling us to become the blessing in that moment. And what a different feel that is than looking at something as being against me. What is this calling forth in me to become more? And when I do that, I rise to a deeper knowing of who I really am. James Hollis calls it a summons of the soul. So if you can feel what that feels like, it's just calling us forth into a greater expression of who we are. And it's through the heart that we do that. Now, to be clear, we're not talking about an anemic, faint, wimpy thankfulness. Not at all. No. We're not just papering over our problems here in psychological denial about the challenges that we face. That's not helpful. No, we're talking about a psychophysiological mechanism that actually marshals the divine love within us, altering our energetic signature into a higher frequency. And our body responds by shifting from adrenaline to endorphin. Our perception about life changes. So a rampage of appreciation is what New Thought minister David Owen Ritz, he calls it kick your butt gratitude. It's not some anemic, wimpy gratitude here. It's a kick your butt gratitude. It's a generative, transformative, dynamic power that can truly change our lives. And science shows us this. Science shows us what happens when we get into a state of gratitude, how it shows up in the body, gratitude and other positive emotions. And so we want to take a look at, first of all, what happens to us when we're in this chronic state of stress. Anybody been stressed out at all lately? Well, here's what happens. And this is all based on scientific research. Accelerated aging, you'll see the difference when the president comes in and then goes out 8 years later. There's a definite aging process from all the stress. And then there's brain cell death. That's one of my favorites. That's what happens when we have this high cortisol experience. Impaired memory and learning. How's that one? Decreased bone density, as well as reduced muscle mass and skin growth, and impaired immune function. Did you know being stuck in 5 minutes of recalled anger? We're not talking about being in the heat of the moment, but later, just kind of having a slow burn about it. 5 minutes of that will impair our immune system for up to 6 hours. And then increased blood sugar and even fat accumulation. Now, when I learned this, I was like, really? That too? I mean, can't we catch a break here? You know, when we're stressed out, all these things can happen in our bodies and we have to be aware of. And we do it to ourselves, but there is a way out. There is a way out. So imagine right now if we were able to fast forward our lives 20 years from now and see the overall effects from what our current thinking is. You know, just kind of look back and see how what our current thoughts and beliefs and attitudes, how they have now manifested in some way in the future. How motivated might we be to change if right now we're in this stressed out state. Transformational teacher Tony Robbins calls this the Dickens effect. And it kind of goes like this, that Ebenezer Scrooge went to bed one night, a hateful, mean, miserly man, and he awoke a grateful, dancing, humble, joyous, generous person. Now, what changed him? Well, it was seeing what was in store for him if he didn't change, if he stayed on that trajectory. And so he was very motivated to do so. He had a thank God it was a dream moment when he wakes up. Now, this is a fictional story, of course, but it really hits home for me. Change your state now. Change your life. Not only change your state, but sustain it to a more positive, uplifting state within ourselves. And gratitude's the fastest way to get us there. And you know what? It benefits us in so many ways when we do it. So again, we're looking at what science tells us, what the effect of positive, uplifting, elevating emotions are on the body. Now we're talking about increased longevity and resilience, increased resilience, improved cognitive flexibility, improved memory and problem solving, improved job performance. Now, this time it enhances the immune system. And they have found the very same thing, that if you get into a state of gratitude and sustain that for 5 minutes, it will enhance the immune system for up to 6 hours. Then there's this increased intuitive, like the deeper intelligence of the heart becomes available to us. So it actually increases our intuition, our creativity, all these things. And, you know, just makes us generally happy. So in short, appreciation can counter all these negative effects of stress. Now, these changes in the body are measurable. They are measurable. They're not, this isn't just kind of woo-woo stuff. This is really, it really shows up. This slide shows 2 saliva samples from the same person. Now on the left, they're in a very stressed out state when they take this first sample. Then on the right, they sit down, they get into gratitude for 5 minutes, and now they take this second sample. And you see the difference in this ordered coherence that gets created within the body. And, you know, they've even measured changes in DNA from positive elevating emotion. It turns out that feeling good Well, it's just good for us. Just ask these monks. Feeling good is good for us. So do not underestimate the power of changing your internal state to one of gratitude and appreciation. It is a powerful way of thanks living that can change our lives just in so many ways. But in order to do that, we've got to go on a rampage of appreciation. Finding something to appreciate about every single one of the moments we're in. That's how we do a rampage of that. It's becoming very present, opening our heart to what am I appreciating right now, and getting ourselves into that state. If you remember, Jesus always thanked God first before he did a prayer. It's a state of being that opens us to something greater in a very big way. So this practice can really become a catalyst for us to really unearth the gold in whatever the challenging experience we're going through, to find that blessing in the mess, the bless in the mess. And when we look out on the world and look for the good, that is true spiritual living. We start to look at life as everything is rigged in our favor. I love Rumi's perspective on that. If we imagine going through our day, seeing every moment as this is rigged in my favor, life is rigged in my favor, and mining the gold from it. And here's why this is so powerful. When we raise our vibration to one of appreciation, we come into alignment with Spirit's vibratory signature. And when we do that, it increases our awareness of presence. We become very connected to the wholeness. That's how it happens, through the power of the heart. So are you ready to affirm a rampage of appreciation? The thing is, we can't just say it, we have to do it. And here's the problem, that we have this storyteller living in our heads that resists this kind of teaching. In fact, the British writer Evelyn Waugh said this: the human mind is inspired enough when it comes to inventing horrors. It's when it tries to invent a heaven that it shows itself cloddish. This is without a doubt my newest favorite quote, cloddish. So the mind loves to spin tales of woe, but kind of drags its feet when it comes to looking for the good in life. It's because we have a negativity bias. It's just the way it is, that we're always looking to see if we're safe or okay. And that's what the mind is designed to do. But practicing this over and over has a cumulative effect, that we create this coherent state within the body that opens us to the deeper heart intelligence. And the more we do it and the longer we sustain it, it now becomes our baseline. We start to live from that coherent state of harmony and peace, kindness, compassion. All those things can just emanate from us when we practice this enough. And when we do, we want to know that we're blessing the world. And here's why. This to me is the whole point of this, that this is a computer-generated image of what a magnetometer can actually measure, which is the energetic field of the heart that surrounds us. And it may be invisible, but it's real, like radio waves. And it's been measured from up to 15 feet of the body. And our emotions affect the field. You remember that slide of the saliva? It affects the body, it affects the field. And when we're in a state of gratitude and compassion, then this field reflects that harmonious state, and it affects all those around us. And that's how we help the world to transform, right there. This is the key for us. By transforming our internal state to one that is a vibrational match to the greater mind, and of which we are all instruments, and then allowing divine love to be expressed through and as us. We become conduits of the divine. And when we do this, we are orienting ourselves to the sacred. And it's such a simple practice that can make a big difference. I read about a farmer who had lived on the same farm all his life. And as the years passed, he began to wonder if the time had come for him to find a better plot of land and to move on. And the more he thought about it, the more he found reasons to move. He started to see all that was wrong with his farm, and he got very critical of the farm. And so one day he called the realtor to come and list the property. And so the realtor prepared a description of the farm, and he sent a copy to the farmer to get his approval before he posted it. And as the farmer read it, well, you can kind of guess what happened. He realized that this was his perfect place. He was reading a description of the perfect farm for him. And so he changed his mind and happily remained at the same farm, but he had new eyes. He saw it with new eyes of appreciation. So I want to invite all of us into a practice where part of what we'll do is to look at our life with new eyes. What parts of our life have we been taking for granted or not seeing the gift? And when we start to focus on what is right in our world, then more and more of those things start to show up in our perception, right? So I invite you to take some time. First of all, think about someone or something you appreciate. Could be a beloved person in your life. It could be a cherished pet, or a memory of some kind, or a place of beauty. Choose someone or something that evokes a feeling of gratitude. You don't want to just think about it. You want to feel it. And then when you have attained that state, you continue to let it radiate, grow, expand, and sustain it for at least 5 minutes. And then after doing that, ask your heart for guidance and take 3 minutes, set a timer for 3 minutes. And sorry, I forgot I had a slide on this. And write down all the things that you are appreciating right then. Just take a 3-minute time and just write them out. And every day, so I've asked 21 days or however long you want to try doing this, but just try it. Try this and see what happens when you start to live this thanks living appreciation rampage, where you let your heart nudge you into seeing the gratitude, seeing how this is for you, seeing what's right in the world. Start looking with those new eyes. And when you do this, we connect with the truth of who we are, and we start to really live in a greater way. So do this not because I'm suggesting it. Don't believe a word I say. See how this works for you. Try it and see what you think. Connect with your deeper calling to be that expression of gratitude and peace in the world. Swami Beyondananda, a very wise man, said this: we're not here to earn God's love, we're here to spend it. And this is how we do it. This is how we spend our divine inheritance, by going on a rampage of appreciation and just spewing it out onto the world. So I'm asking you, are you ready for some kick butt gratitude practice? Are you ready to start to see your life with new eyes and see what happens? And in so doing, start unearthing the gift that lies within whatever situation you're facing in life. It has helped me to shift from a stressed out state like Dr. Brown and into one of calm, peace, gratitude. And I'm finding that peace is not being shaken the way it was previously. So all I had to do was turn on the news and I was just a wreck. Now I'm finding there's just this solid sense of being okay, of being held in the arms of spirit, if you want, or floating in that sea of oneness. And gratitude can be the portal to get there. So I can't wait to see the good that comes from having a collective rampage of appreciation. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and let's take a moment to get into that place of appreciation. So I'll invite you to just sort of set aside anything that's been on your mind and heart, and any of the busyness to get here or whatever else has been happening. Just let it go. And first of all, let's sink our awareness deep, deep within the body. Just notice the sensations throughout your body. Notice the emotion that may be there, feelings. Notice any places of tension. And just gently surrender those places into the now moment. We begin to follow the breath in and out. We let it anchor us in this moment. And as we become present, I'll invite you to think of someone or something that really evokes gratitude. One way you can do that is to bring to mind a time when someone was very generous towards you, when someone did something really nice for you, very sweet. For me, that would be when my aunt calls me every year on my birthday to tell me she loves me, knowing how much I miss my mom on my birthday. And so she just takes it upon herself to do that. And it's such a kind and caring gesture that it makes me tear up just thinking about it. I always feel so nurtured and cared about when she does it. So consider in your heart when you've had a generous act that has really given you that warm glow. And you can also just think of someone you deeply appreciate and why. And let that feeling start to open your heart. It starts with a warming of your heart. Let it bring a smile to your face. Now let that feeling grow. Just gently begin to bubble up and to radiate and expand, and just warms your entire heart and spills out. Starts to move through your body. Notice how it feels to have every cell of your body saturated in gratitude. Notice how every cell is invigorated by this healing vibration of appreciation. Let it continue to expand and beyond the body as we create together this coherent, energetic signature of gratitude. It goes beyond the walls of the room you're in. See it just moving outward, blessing your community and the world. There is power in this practice. Myrtle Fillmore learned to appreciate and bless every cell of her body. She learned the power of this, and we can use it too. As we learn to be the change that we seek in the world. And for this truth, we are grateful. And so it is. Amen.